everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Joy Evans.
I'm Roy Kennedy.
I'm Chris Yee.
Today we're taking a look at the third game in the Terraforming Mars universe. Terraforming Mars, the dice game.
Which is our universe, technically. Mars.
My universe
is right over there.
Is not this ugly.
No.
Not that square.
One of the worst covers. I hate this cover. I really do.
I think the side of the box is worse. The one here where the people are talking in dice.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious. But not really hilarious.
Oh, and there's a die falling from the sky.
It's hilariously bad.
We get it. The game has dice. Anyway, this is Terraforming Mars in dice form. If you've never played Terraforming Mars, very popular game from Stronghold Games and Frixilius Games about, well, Terraforming Mars. Have we all played Terraforming Mars?
I have played Terraforming Mars.
Right. And then they had the card game come out, Ares Project. Now we have the dice game. Here's how you play. In this game, players are trying to get the most points by terraforming Mars. Mars, the game will end when two of these things are finished. When you either get the oxygen up to 16%, get the temperature up to 8 degrees, or get all 7 oceans on the board. Everyone will go get one final round, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. Some of the things you're looking for over the course of this game, the first person to accomplish these is going to get 4 points, and these are put out randomly, so the first person has 5 green cards. And these you'll get points at the end of the game if you have the most symbols amongst all of your cards. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. Players are going to start with a corporation. And the corporation is going to give you some starting dice. Like, for example, if I pick Vitor here, I'm going to get a green and a blue die as my starting dice. If I pick Mining Guild, I'll get a blue and 2 gray dice. You also get a one-time bonus here. And so whatever bonus, let's say I'm the blue player, this gives me 3 wild tokens. This gives me 2 points and 4 wild tokens. And then you'll just put your marker over it because it's only a one-time bonus. So let's say I'm playing the Mining Guild here. I'll start with these dice. I'll roll them. And I get these 3 wild tokens. Now each of the different dice in the game, and there are 5 colors, has 3 different sides. A common side that's on 3 of the sides, an uncommon on 2, and a rare on 1 side of the die. I know this because of this player aid, of which they only bothered to give 2 of in the box. On a player's turn, they have 2 different things that they can do. You can do a production turn or an action turn. If you do a production turn, if you have more than 3 dice, you go down to 3 dice. You can keep any dice that you want. Then you're going to discard as many cards from your hand. Players will have a hand of cards. You'll discard as many as you want and draw back up to 5. You'll then take production. So you'll always get what you have here on your card here. So let's say I kept these dice. I would get 2 more grays and a blue and roll them. And as the game goes by, you have a chance to build green cards. So if I had a couple green cards in front of me, I'm going to roll 2 grays, 2 blues, a green, and a yellow. So I'd roll those, and those are the resources that I have. And then that's it. That's what a production turn does. Now, what you'll most of the time be doing are action turns. When you have an action turn, you get 1 support action that you can do and 1 main action. Your support action has to be first. Your main action can be a support action again in this very confusing iconography here. But let's talk about the support actions because they're important. You do them first. You can just take a die from the thing and roll it as a support action. Or you can spend a die to take any die and turn it to the face of your choosing. Or you can spend a die to draw 2 more cards from the deck. That's a support action. The main action can be that again, but usually a main action is going to be playing cards from your hand. So maybe I want to play this commercial district card. The cost of this card is the euro and the city symbol. I have those, so I would play this card in front of me. This is a blue card here, and this blue card gives me a new support action where in the future I can turn a euro to be able to change 3 dice to whatever I want. I can turn 1 in to change any 3 dice to whatever sides I want. Blue cards, when you use them, will stay that way until production turn. They'll come back in. And so there are different kinds of blue cards. Some of them give you a free action here, like this. I can spend a blue to turn 2 dice into whatever I want. Some give you permanent abilities, like I now have a discount on buildings that with a star on them. And some also give victory points. Got to keep that in mind. This gives a discount and victory points. Red cards, when you build them, have immediate benefits. This lets me put a city on the board. It gives me a plant resource, which means I take a green die and turn it to the plant resource side. And it's worth a victory point at the end of the game. This one lets me put out 2 oceans. And then the green ones, as I said already, you can build those to get more dice in the production phase. Players can also take a main action here of a standard project. You can pay 3 of the temperature dice to raise the temperature by 1, 3 water to put up the ocean, 4 plants to build a tree, 3 of these to build a city, and 3 of these just to take 2 points. Now, all of those have to do with the board here. When you place an ocean, you'll take one of these ocean tiles and place it here. It will give you an immediate benefit, like, hey, 2 green dice. But also, you're going to score 2 victory points. Scoring victory points is how you win the game. And whenever you help Mars become more habitable by increasing oxygen or increasing the temperature or placing an ocean, you get points. Placing cities will give you points. They give you points for being placed next to forests, and forests get points for being placed next to cities. And also they give you whatever you place them on top of. Like this one lets me turn a die to whatever I want. This gives me a victory point. This lets me draw a card. This gives me a wild token. A wild token can be spent as any side of a die. And if you cause these to pass these spots here, you will get those also. That's pretty much the game. The only thing I didn't mention here is as player markers move around the board, if your score passes 5 and then 12, there'll be a pile of special action bonus cards next to the board. There'll be 2 per player. So let's say in a 3-player game, there'll be 6 of them. The first person to hit 5 takes all 6, looks at them, and keeps it. And you'll notice they are red, blue, and green cards, but they're free as long as you get to these. And then you'll get a second one here. So everybody has the chance to get 2. When Mars is terraformed, we will then, these are scored. These will be scored. You'll score all the points on your cards, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. I warned you. Just before we get... I warned them before we get to the ratings. I'm just saying right now, my rating is going to be a whole point lower because of the 2 player aids. I'm sorry. Unacceptable, especially in this game, because I cannot memorize what's on those things. I'm like, well, I need 4 of what symbol to do a plant? I mean, it's the plant symbol, but I need 4 of them. That's different than needing 3.
Oceans.
Right.
3 temperatures, 3 Celsius dice.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the symbology is terrible.
It's not intuitive.
Turning a die to any side looks like every other game's re-roll a die.
Dice,
to the point where in the rule book they're like, you can't ever re-roll dice ever. Because they probably got tired of saying that in playtesting. The game doesn't look that great, but the lack of player aids, I'm sorry. Putting 2 in there is just, at this point, I feel like they did it on purpose. I feel like they were like, ha 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 ha. That's the only explanation. Because otherwise you are an incompetent buffoon. Because nobody on earth thinks, yeah, we don't need enough player aids. Sorry, that's my
Maybe
rant.
they only play tested it too.
I
It's like we have enough for the number of players. Oh wait, let's put 4 on the box just 'cause, you know.
Just in case.
I get that you could argue, well, 2 people sit on the 2 sides of the table probably and put it in between the 2. But also, no.
It's not always the case.
Just make 2 more.
2 more. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, what if you're sitting at a table where that's not necessarily the convenient case? You need to reference those actions, too. What is the difference between the support action versus your main action? You need to kind of see what all your options are consistently.
To the point, though, where if there's 1, you think, oh, they just put 1 player aid in here. Then if there's 2, everyone at the table is looking for the other 2 because it doesn't make any sense to have a 4-player game with 2.
I didn't realize the player aids were such an issue, but that's because I had one of the player aids. So.
Okay. One thing I didn't mention in the overview is that they did the same thing in Terraforming Mars where they call it, I think, an expansion. There's like corporate era expansion.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's a whole bunch of extra cards. They do this in Terraforming Mars, too. The first time I played Terraforming Mars, I'm like, oh, we better not use any of these extra cards. I couldn't even tell you what the difference is between the cards. So same thing here. Yes, there's a corporate era expansion in this.
Interesting.
By the way, coming back to terrible components, this game has a nice little spot for you to put all the cards with card dividers. Do you want to know what the card dividers are? They're cards. They're the same size as the cards. They're literally one of the cards. I can't show them because I threw them away.
Loved them.
But you could have sleeved them and then used them as dividers.
Or they could have made them bigger.
You're right.
Tap the tab like every other.
Doesn't come with sleeves.
Anyhow, the corporate air expansion, you mix and you play with it. Maybe your first game, maybe.
But what do you do if you sleeve your games?
Then you need a very slightly or colored sleeves for those specific dividers. Listen, ingenuity, but that you shouldn't have to do that. No, it doesn't make sense.
So it makes the production off the charts in this one.
The dice are okay, although I'll tell you what, I would roll them and just be like,
It's very much symbol soup, and you're not really sure what they mean. It's kind of like, what? Okay, yeah.
Start with the good things about it. It is little downtime, and it's quick.
no, I agree on that. Okay.
So there is, because you all roll at the same time.
No?
Well, no, I'm saying it's the rolling to keep going. It's very quick.
It's usually quick, although a production
compared to
turn,
Terraforming Mars.
production turns, and we'll sit there and go, okay, I'm going to produce, here's the steps of that action. Okay, I'm going to, how many cards am I going to get rid of? That kind of slows it down a little.
I don't think it's that bad.
But I do think the turns in this game are faster than any of the other Terraforming Mars games.
Yes. Counterpoint, many of your turns are uninteresting.
That's the other thing.
Really?
To the point where it's like, the boredom creeps in. Yeah,
Really?
I agree. I would play. It's going to be compared to everything else. You know, Terraforming Mars, of course, doesn't hit the table a lot because of how grand it is and how long it takes. But this one is, very, very light, I believe.
I about to say, I didn't find like the turns that boring or whatever. Maybe it's just because I had a ton of dice and a ton of manipulation. I would always be planning turns ahead, which I guess that's maybe what you mean is like, oh, I took a turn to move this die because I need to play this card. But for me, I'm building up, and the fact that the turns were so quick, that didn't feel too bad to me.
No, it is quick, and that is one thing that does have going for it, you know? Right. But the randomness, you have to like randomness. It's obviously dice rolls, you know?
So I was going to mention that because we often talk about dice manipulation. And this game allows you to manipulate dice.
It does.
Just deliberately. Get rid of a die, turn another die to its face.
Yep.
That's cool. But my problem with this game is luck is better than dice manipulation.
Yes, yeah.
So you can say you can manipulate dice. Sure.
That's
so I'll
true.
roll dice and I'll go, I needed these 4 symbols. I really want to get this card out for whatever reason. I rolled the colored dice. None of the symbols match up. But good news. In 2 turns, I can change them. Joey goes, hey, I got them all. He's ahead of me.
That definitely happens.
You can say, but Tom, you can manipulate your dice. I know. He didn't have to, so he's still doing better. And sometimes that you just be like, you would roll a huge honking amount of dice. I look at all these symbols. I'm like, cool. Look at my hand of cards and go, oh, nothing works.
The good thing is the game allows you to chuck cards to try to get ones that kind of match the symbols you do. You kind of have to play, you have to roll with the punches as the game goes along. And it's like, oh, I don't have the dice I need for these cards. I could slowly take one of each. That would be terrible.
Right.
And I don't have the symbols I need. Maybe I should take another production turn. I can save. I'm going to spin the ones I can. I'm going to save what I can here, and then chuck the cards that aren't going to work and grab new ones. You have to do a lot of mitigation and pivoting as the game goes along.
It does let you filter your hand. I like that.
Yes. But I think the downside for me still is if you have a pile of dice, you're like, man, I can't use any of these. It feels bad to say, I'm going to do the production turn, which is the only time that you can chuck cards. You have to lose down to 3 dice.
Right.
I don't know, right? It feels bad to either spend turns chucking dice to flip one over to its side and still only be halfway to building a card, or to say, well, I'm going to get rid of like a few of my dice down to 3, chuck cards and hope that the new cards I draw match the ones I have sitting here.
In my games, I always prioritize the things that allow me for extra dice manipulation and just get more dice. So it ended up helping me fix a lot of that stuff. But if you end up getting stuck, you just don't get those cards, or you just don't get the sides you need, I could see how the gears could grind a lot more, you know.
And that's definitely been my experience with the game so far, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't find it grinding very much at all, but I did find the randomness, like you talked about, how someone else can really just overcome what you were trying to do just by a really lucky die roll.
Now, I want to say I like getting more dice. I like the production of the game.
I love handfuls of dice. That's great.
The 2 things that counter that for me, so I like that. There's 2 weird things about this game for me in that regard. One is the game has a weird curve. At the beginning, your first cards are get more dice. Almost always. You have to. And that's kind of fun. You're like, now I'm rolling 3. Now I'm rolling 5. Now I'm rolling 8. I like that a lot. Unfortunately, as the game goes by, you start getting green cards and you don't even look at them. because they're just worthless to you. I have a ton of dice. I now need points and other things. The other thing is the game is called Terraforming Mars, the dice game, and so much of the game is not about terraforming Mars.
No.
It really isn't. Like in the original game, you're putting oceans out left and right and building up cities and plants, and you can do that in this game, but it feels almost secondary to making a dice engine. I'm so concentrated on the dice engine that the Terraforming Mars is what you do once your dice engine gets going. And even then, those basic, the standard actions, in this game, I use them way less than I do in Terraforming Mars. In Terraforming Mars, I'm like, I'm not sure what to do. Hey, I got a pile of money. I can spend it to build a city, which is good in Terraforming Mars. In this one, I need to have rolled the rare symbol 3 times, I think. I'll have to look at the card.
Yeah.
And it's easier for me to build a card.
Yeah, I think almost all 3 of these games should be called Tableau Mars instead of Terraforming Mars. 'Cause it's all about Tableau building in basically all 3 of them. So
It's faster than Terraforming Mars.
Simpler.
Yes, it's simpler. But it's also, I wouldn't call it a fast game, though. It's not that fast.
No, but would you gravitate to this over Ares?
No.
That's where I am too.
I wouldn't gravitate this to either of the other 2. And because I could play this twice in the time I could play Terraforming Mars.
Right,
Terraforming Mars
at
will leave me
least.
with a richer, more fulfilling feature, and it has a very nice arc in Terraforming Mars for me. At the beginning, you can do stuff the whole game. This game definitely has a get green cards, now get other stuff to go down, and rush to get those bonus cards, because getting a free card is huge.
you can still get the bonus cards with some of the green cards, and some of the symbols needed at the end of the game could be on those green cards as well, I guess, a little bit here or there.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That is called random points. Oh my word. The 3 on the bottom, the first person get those make sense. I'm working towards those.
Yeah.
The ones at the top, though, where you roll 3 symbols and you get points at the end, I'm like, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and think, oh, I'll build this card because then I have maybe, I don't know. I hated that part, actually. I felt at the end of the game, I thought, so who gets some extra points for no reason? That's what it felt like.
Because you can't say, I'm going to try to roll more of this face. You can't work towards that on purpose. I get that is an allusion to the original Terraforming Mars' awards. I understand that.
Gotcha.
It lacks all of the charm of what those awards stood for. That idea of the stress of, do I fund an award I think that I might not get? Do I spend time doing that because I think that I'm going to do well at it, or do I think I'm currently doing well at it? But there's only so many times where people can fund an award before they get all used up. It lacks all of the charm while being kind of like an Easter egg. It's like watching a bad movie that says, do you remember this from the original? Do you remember this? How about this?
Oh, where they show you scenes from the original?
Yes.
Just to save themselves film space?
Yeah. That's what some of the illusions feel like to me. The putting the plans, putting the cities on the map. I don't care about that in this game. I do really care about that in the original.
Oh, the original, for sure. Ares is less, but then this is even
Well, this
further
was
less.
also like, hey, you put out a plant, you get 2 red dice. I'm like, I didn't want red dice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but you can put it kind of wherever you want, you know. So.
That's true. Well, yeah, but you're also thinking about points. But in the original game, I get a medal, and medal is so necessary, I guess. But I think you like it the least. What would you give it?
Man, I'm really struggling to put an exact score on it. It's a 5 for me. I think the production is not great. I think that the player aids is an obvious issue. The art is the worst that it has been in any of the games of the series. But sometimes I have fun turns. But that's definitely not enough to make me say, like, oh, a game that I want to come back to. I really don't. I've played it. I've seen what it has to offer. I see what they're going for with the allusions to the original. But it's just not good. And I have very little fun when I play it. So I'll happily play the other 2 games. I think the other 2 in the series, Ares and the original, are wonderful games. And this one isn't. It's a 5.
I was also excited to play this. I'm similar to Chris, but I liked it more. It's kind of weird because I definitely said a lot of negative things in his review, but I enjoy the experience of rolling dice and collecting dice and turning into symbols, and it's kind of an enjoyable experience, but those falls bring it down for me. So I would have given it a 6, but I'm not kidding. No player aids, lack of player aids, it's a 5. That's what you get. But it would have been a 6. So I'm higher than Chris, but it's actually a 5.
Well, I'm pretty much landing where, without the -1, I am coming in at a 6 on this, only because it's hard to find the audience for this, because clearly Terraforming Mars people probably won't gravitate to this, they'll gravitate to the other two. Then, and maybe it's not for them, it's for people that enjoy the lighter game, which is good. But then you're going up against all these other light dice manipulation games, and I think those are better than this one too. So I don't know where it's going to land. So for me, it doesn't really, it's pasted on, so I would give it a 6, because I think the game is fine. If you enjoy it, if you ask somebody you want to play Terraforming Mars with and they can't handle the bigger ones, this will be fun. But that's it.
I would say for last because everybody thinks that I like it more. And I think it's right. I'm giving this one a 7. I actually enjoyed it. I had fun in our play with it. I enjoyed the manipulation. I know you guys said you have a lot of issues with a lot of stuff, but I saw like the combos coming along. I was able to strategize with turns in the future and be like, okay, I'm going to work towards this. I'm getting this card out, which is going to give me more dice, which allows me to do this. And I had a lot of fun. I played with Jason. We were racing back and forth. He got extremely lucky on a lot of this stuff, but I was still right there behind him, neck and neck, mitigating all of my stuff. And I had a lot of fun with the game. It's very light, but it's not a game that I'm going to play over and over and over again, but I found it enjoyable, so I enjoyed it overall, but I don't know.
What do you rate the original Terraforming Mars?
I don't play those that much just because Terraforming Mars is so long, you know?
I'm curious if there's a correlation between that or not.
The fact that that you guys put Terraforming Mars up here and I don't care about it that much means that I might enjoy this one more.
Yeah, like I think I would give Terraforming Mars a 9 probably.
Right.
I don't like it that much.
And you think your love for Terraforming Mars is dragging this down?
Yeah.
No, I think this is like, if this is like someone coming and pretending to be Terraforming Mars.
I actually like Ares Project more than Terraforming Mars.
Like your TV analogy is pretty good. Like this is a new character comes. But instead of being a new character, they're the same name as they're the same character. It's a different actor, and I'm like, come on, it's not the same person.
Yeah, I don't have tons and tons of experience with Terraforming Mars, and I just took this as what it is, as a simple dice manipulation game of trying to like figure out how to build up your tableau to manipulate those dice even more, and I kind of enjoyed that.
That's interesting, because I think the comparison to the other two games in the series hurts it for me, but also comparing this to other games of this weight and length, I think of like Roll for the Galaxy is also one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And this really pales in comparison to that because you have
Dice Realms.
Right.
Dice
I
Realms.
love Dice Realms.
I do too.
I love Dice Realms. Dice Realms is a 9 for me. This is a 7. I mean, I'm not saying it's amazing, but it's a 7. You know?
Agreed, yeah. But for me, I see so many other games and I'm like, no, go play those ones instead. This one wasn't fun for me.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments. Also, they sent me this box with a big hole in it.
4.
No, that's probably the post office.
Kidding, no.
Post office. I get the post office higher than a 4. They get 4.5. Anyhow, that's Terraforming Mars, the dice game. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Roy Kenning.
I'm Chris Yee.
Oh, to Mars we go.